In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a pile of juicy, delicious burnt ends just like this, right in your own backyard. For competition barbecue, I use A9 Australian Wagyu briskets. Today, I've got a 20-pound brisket that I'm going to trim up to use later for competition practice. I usually only concern myself with the flats, and the points end up in my freezer that I give away to friends, or I grind up and make burgers or make barbecue burnt ends here at home. This video isn't about competition barbecue. I'm simply going to separate the point from the flat here, which is a really simple process that I'll show you. But if you're interested in seeing how I trim up the flat for competition, go ahead and let me know in the comments and maybe I'll spin up a video for you. You want to get started by making sure you have a sharp knife. And my favorite knife for trimming up a brisket is just a regular old flexible boning knife. I think this is a 6 to 8 inch. But I usually like to start, and I usually like to open the package just in the fatty part of the meat back here. Go ahead and get that out of there. Be careful not to make a giant mess all over the place. I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but always trim your briskets when they're cold right out of the fridge, and that way you'll make the work a little easier on yourself. So there's a few different ways you can get after this, and looking at a brisket the first time can be kind of intimidating. But what I like to do is just start back here by the point and run my knife around that edge and just try to clean up some of that edge where the steam cutter came in and cut this off from the steer. And I don't throw this away. I'll save it and I'll make burgers from it. We'll grind it up and we'll find a use for it here at home. All right, so looking in here, you can see that by trimming that little bit out of there, you can see that right down in here is where our point ends and our flat begins as it kind of runs back up this way. They've already got kind of a nice pocket in here for me. So I'm just gonna begin separating that. Pull the flat away from the point so that I can keep as much of the flat intact as possible and still have a good point for making tasty burnt ends today. The second cut is just right here where these two muscles meet. I'm just going to clean that out a little bit so that I can see that line a little better. I'm just pushing that point down and away from the flat. Okay, the next move I want to make here is I want to begin to get my knife so that I'm keeping as much fat on the flat as possible and running that down just underneath of there, just to kind of try and keep as much of these muscles together as possible. And you can begin to see there why I love A9s. I mean, look at the marbling in this brisket is just absolutely phenomenal. Slowly using my knife to pull that apart. I'm gonna get this flipped over here so it's a little easier to work with. And I'm gonna try and keep as much fat as possible on my flat, which is up there. Pull that point meat back, make sure I'm keeping as much as that flat as together as possible. I'm just following that down along the edge here, kind of just letting it pull itself off under its own weight so I'm not forcing anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my flat off to the side. I'll deal with that later. We have got to clean up this massive, massive point, but we gotta take a minute just to appreciate the marbling in this point. I mean, oh my goodness. Enough talking about our meat. Let's go ahead and get this thing trimmed up. So what you wanna do here is mostly just clean off the excess fat that's here, right? So if it's hard fat and it's not gonna render out on the smoker, you might as well just go ahead and get rid of it. So I'm just using my knife to tailor nice and slowly here, making long cuts. You can leave a little bit of fat on here if you like, but these A9s in particular are so highly marbled to get them to render out to the texture that's going to be enjoyable. I'm going to need to get rid of as much fat as possible on this brisket point. All right, I'm pretty happy with the back there. And we're back here on the top. You can see we got some silver skin to deal with, a little bit of fat, so we'll just go ahead and clean that up. And you can just keep using the same knife, or if you've got a fancy salmon slicer that I've got hiding around here somewhere, that really makes quick work of the silver skin too as well. Just remember, when you're trimming up anything, slow cuts are your friend. That way you don't make a costly mistake and end up getting into the meats and losing what would be edible barbecue. So I'm pretty happy with the amount of fat that we have left on there. I think that'll be a good balance of fat to make some delicious burnt ends, which is what great barbecue is all about. But the shape here is a little awkward, and I do believe that some pieces of this will burn if we leave them on, right? So this piece up here seems a little bit good, but I'm not a fan of rough edges. Those just tend to dry out and get crispy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come and I'm gonna trim off this piece here and just try to make this as square as possible. And those will make great burgers. If we look over here on my left side, I've kind of got another little point here. That's kind of hard fat that's in there anyway, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take my knife and trim that off too as well. And we've got a little hanger there, trim that down. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just looking for any pieces that are hanging over that might burn on the smoker. Back here on the back side, there's another one of those steam edges from the knife cutter when they cut this from the steer. So I'm just gonna take my knife and just clean that up a little bit. Don't worry, 2 is going in my burger pile. And man, look at that cross section. You can really see the marbling that's down in there, which is why these can be so difficult to get right. Now it's time to get some flavor down onto our brisket point. I have explored making some of my own rubs, and in fact, if you check out this burger video, you'll see an example of a great beef rub that will work on this point. Absolutely delicious. However, with competition season rapidly approaching, gonna take a chance here and try a couple of flavors I think are gonna make for the perfect bite. This is gonna be an opportunity for me to dial in a flavor profile that I think is gonna please the judges in competition barbecue, but also a chance for you to see some of the rubs that I enjoy using. If you're looking for some suggestions for other barbecue rubs that maybe you'll find in your local barbecue store, by all means, drop me a message in the comments and let me know. We're gonna get JDQ Spicy Barbecue Rub right down as the first layer of our brisket. I'm just putting down about a medium coat here. The trick when seasoning any piece of meat is that you don't want to overdo it. Those small little striations that are in the meat, when you're done seasoning, you hopefully should be able to see some of those striations shining through. This next rub is one that I've been wanting to use but haven't had a chance to try just yet, and today is the perfect opportunity. It is the Rio Valley Perfecto Rub. These guys are actually my neighbors down at the American Royal, and absolutely great guys, just down from in Texas. And you know, I enjoy a Texas style brisket, so I think this is really gonna bring that Texas flavor that I'm thinking about and dreaming about in my head when I think about a great burnt end. And I just put down a light coat of that. The next rub we're gonna have, and this is the final one, we're not putting 12,000 layers down on this one, I promise you. The last one is Big Papa's Double Secret Steak Seasoning. I'm just coming in with a real light coat, and this is going right over the top. And a general rule of thumb is that when you're using rubs that are coarse grind like this, is that you want those rubs to be the last layer that you put on here. All right, so we'll let this sit on the counter for about 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna flip them over and we'll season up the other side. All right, as you can see, our brisket has begun to set up and the rubs look nice and rehydrated on there. There are some spots that didn't rehydrate as nicely, but I'm not too concerned about that. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get it off of this disposable cutting board, which I like to have around just because it makes cleanup easy. And I'm gonna transfer it onto this rack. And that is gonna allow me to preserve some of the integrity of the rub that we put down on, just like that. Boom. We're just gonna put down the rubs in the same order that we did before. Just a nice coat of the JDQ Barbecue Spicy. Remember, it's spicy, meaning it has flavor and a little bit of heat, but it is not gonna burn you up. Absolutely delicious. And then coming back in with my new friends from Rio Valley Meat Perfecto. We're just gonna throw that down on there. Not too heavy on that one either. Remember, the beef is the star of the show. You don't want to bury any of your meats and rubs. And then we're just going to lastly, just a little bit of the Big Papa Smokers Double Secret. I'm super excited to try out this combination of rubs. If you've ever tried this combination, you should absolutely let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you think about it. Our brisket's been seasoned to perfection. It smells delicious just sitting here. Excited to get it out on the smoker. Speaking of smokers, today I'm using my drum smoker. It's what we use in competition because they're easy to carry, the cost of entry is low. I could go on, but most importantly, they are easy to control and you can get that live smoke flavor in a very small form factor. If you have no clue what I'm talking about or you've never seen one before, don't you worry, just hit that subscribe button and I'm gonna walk you through it right now. All right, so this is my drum smoker and this is its engine, the fire basket. Don't fill the basket enough and you won't have enough heat to make it through your cook. Fill it too high and you'll be left over with a little bit of charcoal. But if you're using high quality lump charcoal, you'll be able to reuse that charcoal for your next cook. But I've got my basket about 3/4 of a way full here. I'm just gonna go ahead and light that starter cube that I've got down in there. I'm gonna take fire basket and put it into the bottom of the smoker. So I have about a softball sized fire going. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my diverter in. If you don't have a diverter for your drum smoker, you could just use a second grate with a water pan on it. I'm also gonna go ahead and get my rack in here. And I'm gonna let the smoker warm up to about 300 degrees when I'm gonna go ahead and put our brisket on. Our smoker's settled in at 300 degrees. I'm gonna go ahead and throw down just 3 chunks of pecan. All that's left to do is just go ahead and get your brisket on there. And man, this looks absolutely delicious. Smells great. To make sure I keep the cook even, I'm going to spin this grate at about every 45 minutes, and we'll come back and check it in a bit. Our brisket point's been on for about 45 minutes. I'm just gonna get in here, take a look at it, spin it around. I also came out to check and make sure our temperature was still holding at 300 degrees, and that's one thing I love about the drum smokers. They're super easy to manage. So let's get in here, take a look. And you can see here we're developing some great color, and I'm probably getting pretty close to just about ready to wrap this up. You can see that's looking good on the back. It's not quite ready yet. I'm kind of looking for the fat to begin popping through on the back, kind of like we see just right over in here in that area. Flip that back over and get her back down on there. Give it a spin just to keep that cooking even, and then we'll come back out and check it in about 30 minutes or so. All right, we're about 2 hours into our cook here, and I'm just gonna pop the lid and see where we're at. Oh my goodness, this is looking absolutely fantastic. You can see on the back side, it's starting to build up a nice color there too as well. But you know what, folks? I think this is ready to wrap. One telltale sign you can always do is just take a temperature of your brisket before you wrap it. And you always want to be shooting for around 172 degrees. So I'm gonna get this off, get it inside, and we'll talk about how I'm gonna wrap it up. Today, I'm gonna use butcher paper to wrap up our brisket point. And I'll be honest with you, I usually, in competition, exclusively use aluminum foil. However, using aluminum foil causes more of a braising effect, and that's not really what I'm going here for today. I wanna get this piece of beef tender, and I want to make sure that I preserve some of the integrity of the bark as well, which is what butcher paper is going to help me to do. And the process is super simple. I'll show you how it's done. So the first thing you want to do is just tear yourself off a couple lengths of butcher paper. All right, and paper by itself is kind of difficult to work with, especially when you're trying to wrap it up and make it a nice tight package and get a good seal around things. Let's get a little bit of water down on there, and that's plenty. The other thing to mention here is that we want to make sure that we're evening out our cook. And I didn't actually end up flipping my brisket point today. I cooked it all so that this side was up. So when I wrap this up, I want to make sure the other side of the brisket is up and this side is down. That's just going to help to even things out and make sure we're getting an even cook all the way around. We're getting that all wrapped up there. I'm just gonna fold my ends in here. And we're gonna flip this over, but before we do, I just wanna go ahead and make like a little tiny platform here. And that's gonna make it so that it doesn't stick to my grate, right? So we're top side up, I'm gonna flip it over. Now we got our bottom side up. And we're ready to go back onto the smoker, just like this. And you might wanna go ahead and just decrease your heat a little bit. And I'm gonna try and get this to settle in around 275. But other than that, it's as easy as it sounds. Just take your brisket point and put it right back in there. So how do we know when our brisket point is gonna be done? Well, I can tell you from experience, it's probably gonna take in the realm of 1.5 to 2 hours. But other than time, using a thermometer will give you a feel for when the internal muscular fat has broken down and we're at the optimal temperature for pulling it off and letting it rest. But for now, just be sure to keep an eye on your temperature of your drum so it doesn't get away from you. All right, so now it's time to get in here and take a look and see where we are at with our brisket point. We've been chilling for about 1.5 hours, so we should be pretty close to done, if not already there. To do this, you just need to make sure that you have the most important tool in your barbecue arsenal, a digital read thermometer. But I'm just gonna take my thermal pen and I'm just looking to see how that brisket point feels when I'm pulling it back. It's pretty hard to visualize and show this step in video, but what I'm doing is I'm sticking it down to the brisket point and I'm pulling it back, and when I'm pulling it back, I'm making sure there is little or no resistance. And that was back in the thicker part of the brisket point, so that's probably likely gonna have the most amount of fat concentration, but I'm also gonna check another spot just to be sure. So I'm gonna check up here in the front without getting through our paper and losing a bunch of our moisture. And that felt really good too as well. So I'm gonna go ahead, get our brisket point off and let it rest on the counter for 1 hour, and then we'll slice it up and finish it off. Our brisket's been hanging out on the counter here. I've got just a little bit of barbecue sauce that I've warmed up. Let's get it out of this butcher wrap and see how we did. Oh man, that smells absolutely fantastic. ton of juiciness in there. Just take a minute, appreciate the jiggliness of that brisket point. You guys are in for a treat. That's what we're going for there, folks. A nice brisket burnt in, the bark set up really nicely. You can see that when I push on the top of this brisket that it's not springing back in, that it's leaving a fingerprint indentation, which means we've done a really good job of rendering out that fat inside. So I'm gonna go ahead and cube up our brisket point here. And so I'm just gonna cut right across the front there, and that knife sliding through there just like absolute butter. Absolutely beautiful. Careful to make sure that you are cutting nice, even slices here. And using a cutting board like this makes it super easy to flip around, go the other way. Now let's grab one of those guys and take a look at that. Oh, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. Look at that. Just a perfectly juicy, nicely cooked burnt in. That's so good. Before I eat all these, I should get a little sauce on them. But they absolutely don't need any sauce, man. These are absolutely fantastic. A great dinner. Perfect for an appetizer. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the beer tacos. They'd be perfect for a brisket point. Oh, that's so good. That's so good.